Hello to all of you. We're going to continue the book we're reading about Ako ay Pilipino noon at ngayon. And we're on this chapter now about the prehistoric or about the Philippines history from way back before. So the first historic was a Tabon man. Tabon man, the earliest human remains known in the Philippines are the fossilized fragments of a skull and a jawbone of the three individuals collectively called Tabon Man, after the place where they were found in Tabon Cave on the west coast of Palawan. Portions of the find have been carbon 14 dated to roughly 7,000 to 22,000 BC before Christ. Some experts have given the opinion that the jawbone is Australian in physical type and that the skull cap measurements are most nearly like the Tasmanians. Nothing can be concluded about the Tabon man's physical appearance from the recovered skull fragments except that he was not a Negrito. Negrito is a Filipino version of like African. They look like African. Like a skin color. Yeah, so we call it Negrito in Philippines. Physical anthropologists who have examined the Tabon man skull cap agree that it belonged to modern men, indicating that Tabon man existed prior to the racial stock which entered the Southeast Asia, absorbing earlier peoples to produce the modern Malay, Indonesian, Filipino, and Pacific peoples. So 500 BC to 1 AD, early Metal Age. So now we're moving from the Tabon Man prehistoric to 500 BC to 1 AD, early Metal Age era. The earliest metal tools in the Philippines were said to have first been used somewhere around 500 BC. And this technology coincided with considerable changes in the lifestyle of early Filipinos. The new tools brought about a more stable way of life and created more opportunities for communities to grow, both in terms of size and cultural development. Where communities once consisted of small bands of kinsmen living in campsites, larger villages came about, usually based near water, which made traveling and trading easier. The resulting ease of contact between communities meant that they began to share similar cultural traits, something which had not previously been possible when the communities consisted only of small kinship groups. So the more they move, the more they change. Now we're moving to from Tabon Man to early Metal Age to 280 to 900 AD. The emergence of barangay city states. Barangay is like a little municipality in the Philippines. We have this a lot of different barangay. It's a small community, very small community. It's very small. So, share at least third century, the indigenous peoples of the Philippines were in contact with other Southeast Asian and East Asian nations. Fragmented ethnic groups established numerous city-states known as barangays, each headed by a datu. Datu is a um, I don't know what's the description of datu. I know how it looks like. I have a visual image of a datu, but nowadays in the modern day we call it barangay captain. But of course, in the old days, 200 to 900 AD is a different kind of look or figure, but it's the head of the barangay. So, who was then answerable to a raya, who headed the city state. Okay. Raya is like a mayor in the old days. Each barangay consisted of about 100 families. Some barangays were big, such as Subu. In the old days, they called Cebu as Zubu, Z-U-B-U. And then Butuan, Mactan, Irong, Irong. Yeah, Irong, Irong is the old way of saying Iloilo. Bigan with a boy instead of the victory in the old days. And Salurong. That's the first time I've heard it. Manila was called Salurong in 200 to 900 AD. Imagine I'm from Manila, I don't know that. Salurong. Each of these big barangays had a population of more than 2,000. Even scattered barangays, through the development of inter-island and international trade, became more culturally homogeneous by the 4th century. Hindu, Buddhist culture and religion flourished among the noblemen in this era. So that's our 200 to 900 AD. Now we're going to do a, time key, says here, time key for 1521. I don't know if it's April 27, 1521. So it says here, time key 427, 1521. I think that means April 27, 1521. Place key, Mactan Island. Battle at Mactan Island. A native hurled a bamboo spear into captain's face. Another wounded him on the leg with a large sword. That caused the captain to fall face downward. They killed our mirror, our light, our comfort, and our guide, and our true guide. This is the vivid description of Ferdinand Magellan's death from Antonio Pigafetta's journal. The chronicler attending Magellan's voyages never expected that on April 27, 1521, his next journal would describe the fall of his leader. Oh, that's the time when Magellan died, April 27, 1521. The scene was still vivid in Pigafetta's mind as he penned his entry. It was early morning when Magellan decided to sail to Mactan Island with an army of men. After befriending the Spanish explorer Raja Humabon and his ally Datu Sula of Cebu, convinced him to kill their enemy Datu Lapu-Lapu. Magellan, out of personal intentions of conquering nearby islands, agreed and even boasted that his Spanish crew could face Lapu-Lapu's army without the aid of Cebuanos. You know, when I was in school, there's always a question, who killed Magellan? And it is Lapu-Lapu. And it became a joke because we also have a fish in the Philippines that called Lapu-Lapu. So that's like a double. Yeah, but it's now from this book now I could confirm that it's really Lapu-Lapu who killed Magellan. Let's continue. It was low light, sorry. It was low light when Magellan's ships docked at Mactan Island, and the distance was too great to fire upon Lapu-Lapu's soldiers. 60 men from Magellan's fleet leaped into the water to face Lapu-Lapu's troops. When we reached land, Pigafetta wrote, the natives had formed in 3 divisions to the number of more than 1,500 people. When they saw us, they charged down upon us with exceeding loud cries. Magellan and his men never had a chance, as Lapu-Lapu's army outnumbered them, 25 to 1, rushing down the beach. The local warriors fall upon the Spanish fleet with swords and arrows, wounding and killing almost every foreign invader. Magellan, wounded and near death, ordered his men to retreat. When they wounded him, he turned back many times to see whether we were all in the boats, Pigafetta recalled. Thereupon, beholding him dead, we wounded, retreated as best we could to the boats which were already pulling out. The battle at Mactan Island was the first battle between the Filipinos and foreign invaders. From the west, Lapu-Lapu's men defended their land valiantly, forcing the Spanish to retreat and rethink their strategy. That's the battle at Mactan Island. Just let's continue. I'm just going to show you this. I bought in Denmark. I don't know if you could see. This is says weapons of Moroland, but Moroland is in Mindanao. I just googled this weapon and it says it's a weapons of Moroland. It's a plaque of crest containing miniature models of weapons used by warriors from the indigenous peoples of Mindanao in the Philippines. This is just a souvenir item. But reason I'm showing it to you guys is because just to get an idea, what were the weapons in the old days? What were they using? Like it mentioned the arrow. Sorry, it's my background. Hey, come on, it's the arrow. Wait, let me just. Yes, it's that arrow thing. It's like this one, bow and arrow. And then this one using as a shield. And then they have some weapons. Yeah, it's that one. Yes, now you could see. Anyway, that just remind me of this story. So that's the battle at Mactan. That's the very first, as we've heard, as we've read, the first battle between Filipinos and foreign invaders, which is Magellan. Magellan is the first foreigner who discovered the Philippines. That's why when there's also like a question, who discovered Philippines, and it's Ferdinand Magellan. Now we're going to continue. There's 2 pages here about Magellan. So let's just get to know this guy who visited the Philippines and died in the Philippines, sadly. But I guess that's why we became Philippines. It's from Spanish, or it's from because of Magellan. Okay, let's continue. This is how Magellan looked like. This is what I'm going to read now, 2 pages about Magellan. Let's see. I know Magellan by name because it's part of Philippine history, but I haven't really read much about him as a kid or as an adult. So this is also maybe the first time I'm going to get to know him a little bit more than his name and what he did or how he discovered the Philippines. Let's see. I am Ferdinand Magellan. My real name was Fernão de Magallanes, and I am Portuguese. See? And he's Portuguese. We always think he's Spanish. Born in 1480 to a prominent family, I was orphaned at the age of 10. When I was 12, I was called to serve as a page to the Queen. There I learned about astronomy and the voyages of seafaring men, their tales of distant lands filled with treasures the mind cannot behold. Even then, I had dreams, and I dreamed big. I joined the expedition in India when I was 25. In 1511, I was part of the conquest of Malacca. A year later, we went home, but the call of adventure was stronger. I found myself exploring Morocco. The next year, I was involved in 2 fights, both of which changed my life. One was a battle against the natives. I was wounded and walked with a limp from them on. The other was an argument with my commander, which led to the ruin of my reputation. Words are more damaging than any sword. I realized this when I approached King Manuel about my proposal. I was rejected. The depth of my disgrace could not be any clearer than that. I knew that my dreams would never be fulfilled amongst people who hindered it. With much disgust, I left Portugal and along with it, my nationality. In Spain, I became Ferdinand Magellan and pledged allegiance to their king. It was also there that I met my wife, Beatriz Barbosa. But the letters of Francisco Serrao about the abandoned island was like an enticing perfume I could not resist. With the help of my new acquaintances, I was able to present to King Charles I, my proposal to reach the Spice Islands through the tip of Southern America. By September 20, 1519, with 5 ships and 243 men, I set sail for the unknown. In that expedition, I faced trials of various degrees as part and parcel of traveling in the seas. There were mutiny, loss of my crewmen and ships, and disease. But that was before we crossed the vast ocean, which I called the Mar Pacifico, Pacific Ocean, in 1521. For 3 months, all we ever saw was the ocean, and we ran out of provisions. We were starving, and we had to resort to eating rats and sawdust. On March 6th, we saw an island, Guam, and landed there. Open and close parenthesis, the island was Guam. I called it Ladrones, or the island of thieves, because people stole our boats. It was impossible to stay there, and we had to set sail again. It was on March 15, 1521, when he finally found an island filled with hospitable people. Homonhon, it was called, the richly garbed natives. It seemed to me were used to the sight of seafarers and welcomed us warmly. With the help of my servant Enrique de Maliaca, we were able to establish good relationship with the people, and everyone, including the Raha, accepted the Lord 8 days later. But despite the friendliness of the people, I was aware that rivalries existed among their datus. It seems that internal conflict will always be present in any part of the world. Today is April 27, 1521. My men and I are to meet Raha Lapu-Lapu in the island of Mactan. That's it. That's where he died. So that means if I'm going to conclude it based on these pages I read, that he came to Homonhon or Philippines. I think Homonhon is part of Cebu. Sorry, but I know he landed in Cebu. So it's just only March 15, 1521, and he died a month later, April 27, 1521. That's April. Yes, he only stayed in the Philippines in 1 month. He passed April 27, 1521. So that's story of Magellan and story prehistoric of Philippines before Magellan came. That's it, guys. It's good to know the history and read this with you. I'm also getting smarter or learning about my own history because I I had an history when I was in elementary, in high school, but it's probably because during when you were a kid, you don't really absorb a lot, or you may be not paying attention to what your teacher is saying. Now that you're adult, you have a different kind of understanding, and you're more open reading more about these facts, and more details. So it's good to have this reading with you guys. So I hope you watch or listen next time. Bye.